Hello, this is Jericho. Welcome to my new vlog series about the creation, generation and evolution of my cosplay characters. Starting with my Star Wars characters, this vlog I will go into the creation of my rebel agent Dack Terrill, from the very beginning to the present day. In the days before I even owned a digital camera, I was experimenting with Photoshop, creating photo manipulations and early movie poster art and concept art. I would have to scan the photos and save them to a floppy disk to work on them. USB technology wasn't even invented yet. There were no flash drives or plug-in cameras back then. You can see here my earliest version of Dack Terrill's costume. In these never seen before unreleased photos, the clothing has remained the same for all these years. Finding the waistcoat in a charity shop and immediately thinking it looks like a Star Wars costume piece. So I got it way back in the late 1990s, and finding the shirt and smart looking plain trousers in cheap clothing shops. Bringing it all together, it looks like a Star Wars character. I then cut up a pair of biker's boots to make the shin guards and simply laced them up so they looked like boots. But they were always way too big and were loose and floppy, and they wobbled around and they were always slipping sideways. So I eventually gave up on them and I no longer used them. I am a leathersmith in my spare time, so I created my own weapon belt to my own design. Using the right buckle and lightsaber hook when it appears handy, I created a design similar to Han Solo's weapon belt, but to my own design that is original while still looking like it's from the Star Wars universe. And on top of that I added various utility pouches as time went on. I found leather pouches in army surplus stores and bric-a-brac markets. After many years of being a photographer, I finally got me a digital camera and ditched my primitive PC for a modern laptop. You can see the improved advances in my skills and abilities in my second wave of art, where I placed myself in the movies, taking part in major battles on Naboo, the Battle of Geonosis, and infiltrating a Trade Federation battlecruiser. Doing missions at the end of the Clone Wars in my character's own personal timeline, set in between the Clone Wars and the Galactic Civil War, and continue to create my own screenshots and movie poster art, continue to the present day, creating all new original adventures for my character. The only major changes to the character was the weapons I was using. Starting with a toy DL-44 from the late 1990s, painted up to look like a movie prop replica, and it was safe for all the conventions, photo shoots and filming. I then got myself the toy Clone Trooper rifle, which breaks down to a Stormtrooper rifle or a clone pistol, painted in matte black with chrome detailing and dry brushed weathering. I can use it as a heavy big rifle for big battles, or turn it into a regular Stormtrooper rifle as a primary main signature weapon. Here are several examples of this rifle being used, with barrel extensions to make it a big huge heavy blaster used for big siege battles. I used these props for about 10 years or so until I started collecting Nerf blasters. I eventually put aside the Clone Trooper rifle and started using a Retaliator, painted up to look like a Star Wars blaster rifle, and I became very talented at spray painting Nerf blasters. Here is an example of my character armed with the Retaliator. When filming began on my own Star Wars fan film in 2016, I was still using the toy DL44, but eventually Hasbro released a Nerf version of Han's DL44. Knowing I will need that in my armoury, I got it right away and painted it up to look like an original character signature weapon. This is mentioned in my character technical journal profile page, named a DL90, and became the new signature weapon for my character, with a brand new weapon belt with a brand new leg holster built especially for it. There is even a continuity error in my film. Shortly before Dack's first battle with Rogan the Fearless, he clearly pulls a DL44 from his holster, but during the final battle is using the DL90. Out of character, I had not purchased the Nerf blaster when filming began, and the rest of the film was made the following spring with the new weapons in my collection. From the in-character point of view, the character has a whole stash of weapons on board his ship, and the DL44 was simply a spare weapon he had at his disposal, probably destroyed during the course of the film. As the film is laid out like a trailer, this perfectly covers up the continuity so nobody takes any notice. Also, the following year they released a Nerf Stormtrooper rifle in the UK, so I managed to find one. It is a first order rifle, but still resembles the classic Stormtrooper rifle, and I gave it a snazzy black paint job with chrome detailing, and using the scope from my CS Longshot to make it a personalised signature weapon that now belongs to the character with the DL90 pistol on his leg. This weapon combination, as seen in the finished film, can be seen here in these set of photos, and is the latest version of the character as seen in the film, which I still use to this present day. I also did some photo shoots showing different weapon combinations for different circumstances. As he has an armoury of weapons hidden away, I modified my CS Longshot to turn it into a heavy anti-vehicle blaster, normally attached to the gunner's position of a combat speeder or a U-wing gunship. He uses this when he knows he is coming up against ground assault vehicles in a large battlefield environment. Dack has his own lightsaber and can use it in combat, though he does not have the Force. The props varied over the years, as I could not make up my mind what his lightsaber actually looks like. Using the Master Replica's lightsaber construction kits to build my own weapon, I use at the conventions here, finalising a blue blade in more recent years. I then switch it for a modified Darth Vader lightsaber hilt, which hangs off my belt when I'm at conventions or not using it in character. It was repainted to make it into an original design and to clarify it is not Darth Vader's weapon. This was scavenged using parts brought from the underworld traders on Corellia and Coruscant. He hired weapons specialists to construct it for him, knowing it would be classed as an outlawed illegal weapon by the Empire, who were still hunting down any worlds harbouring Jedi fugitives on the run from the end of the Clone Wars. The history of the character required him to have his own ship. I created the name Sedona Sunrider way back in the late 1990s, and it started off as a smaller shrunk down blockade runner type Corellian vessel, taking the front half of a blockade runner with horizontal engines and gun turrets on the sides, and maybe possibly a different design of flight deck. It then evolved into a Corellian YT model freighter with a cockpit in the centre, with quad gun turrets on the sides. So I created these schematics and digital art designs, and even featured this design on one of my own movie poster art pieces back in 2014. by simply digitally editing images of the Millennium Falcon on Photoshop. When I began filming my own movie, I knew I would never have the opportunity of finding a person to actually build a 3D rendered CGI model of my designs and animating it for scenes in my film. I'm just not that lucky, so I simply got stock footage of a computer generated Millennium Falcon for the compositing of special effects that I required in my film. It was simply more convenient for me to find a Millennium Falcon that already existed, rather than finding somebody hundreds of miles away to build one for me. So that is it. That's the entire history of the evolution of my rebel agent Dack Terrill, from his humble beginnings to the present day. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.